What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today we're going to go over the physical suggestions, what to say to create the effect in other people, and how to be 100% confident you're going to be able to do it every single time. Now, I'm going to update this video and the next couple of videos at a point in the near future, and what I'm going to do is give you live examples as long as the explanation. So this part will probably stay the same. The only difference is actually it won't stay the same at all, but I'm going to give you live examples as well. So right now, I want to get this information to you as fast as possible because I'm not able to get those live videos out. And because of that, I still want to give you the information because this will still be super, super valuable. But be sure to check back in about 2 or 3 weeks. I'm going to revamp all the base videos once they're all released the next week or so. So as for this video, physical suggestion is what you do after the suggestibility tests, either the magnetic fingers or bricks and balloons. What I like to do after doing bricks and balloons, I always do the 1 second because it's a bit of a stronger effect. After doing that, I will begin a physical suggestion, and I will do this all without trance, all without saying the word sleep or having people enter that sort of state. What I would do is first ask them if they are a righty or a lefty. And then upon finding out their answer, if they're a righty, I would use their right foot. If they're a lefty, I would use their left foot. The fact that they're a righty or lefty actually doesn't matter at all, but it's another suggestion they're acting on. Or you're asking the question, they're giving you an answer, they're responding to the suggestion. And the suggestion is that you're going to tell me this, essentially. And they get used to responding to your suggestions more, right? Just sort of the same reason we put your hands up, clap your hands together, cross your fingers and thumbs, hold your arms up. Adding more suggestions makes it easier for their subconscious to get into that sort of state of just responding. So you ask that question first. If they're righty, I'll say, okay, stand shoulders apart. I'll make sure they're sitting shoulder width apart. I'll have them put their right foot forward and line it up sort of heel to toe. So their feet are shoulder width apart, but it's sort of lined up heel to toe. And then I'll have them focus on the front of their front foot, right, on any point in their front foot. And as they're focusing on that point, I'm going to create the experience for them. So I'm going to tell them what they're going to be experiencing. So I'll say, as you visually and mentally, so you're looking at your foot and you're mentally focusing on your foot, as you visually and mentally focus on your foot, you'll notice it starts to get heavier. And that's just the very nature of focus itself. For example, if you take your focus now to your head and you focus on your head, you'll notice how heavy your head gets. So they're understanding why it's happening. I always like to explain why it's happening because it allows really skeptical people to experience it as well. So then you bring their attention back to their foot. Notice it gets even heavier still. Then what you want to do is you want to take it from just the aspect of focus to also their imagination. And you'll notice that as you imagine your foot gets heavier and heavier, it actually begins to get heavier because you're focusing on the idea of how heavy your foot is. And when you focus on that idea, it becomes real to you. So as you focus visually and mentally on your foot, you'll notice your foot is getting heavier and heavier to the ground. You can imagine, and then you just start playing with your imagination. You can imagine you stepped in super glue, and the more you try and lift it up, it's actually impossible because it's completely stuck to the ground. You can imagine that your foot is a magnet and the floor is magnetic, and it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. All you're doing at this point, after you do that little build-up, is telling them to imagine stuff. You can imagine someone's underneath the ground actually pulling down your feet. And then what you want to do is right before you give them the suggestion is you want to do an infinite loop, right? So in a moment, not yet, you're going to try and lift your foot up, and you're going to find that you can't. Because in fact, the more you try and lift your foot, the heavier your foot gets. So right there is the sort of infinite loop, because what you're doing is associating in their mind, lifting my foot makes my foot get heavier, which makes it impossible. So you're going to say, okay, so in a moment, you're going to try and lift your foot. You say the word try because trying implies failure. You're going to try and lift your foot, and you're going to find that you can't. You're setting the expectation, telling them what to expect, part of the pre-talk right there. And after you tell them what to expect, you reinforce the experience. You create the images in their mind, what they're supposed to imagine to experience it until it becomes real to them. And from there, their foot will be stuck. You tell them, okay, try and lift your foot. Find that you can't. And they try and lift their foot, and they can't. Sometimes they can. Sometimes they will lift their foot up, and all you have to do is play it off as if it was supposed to happen the whole time. Because their foot will feel heavier. It will feel heavier. And if they lift up their foot, you play on the fact that their foot felt heavier. You say, and you notice how heavy your foot felt and how difficult it was. Now, if you put your foot back down and you just imagine it's 2 times heavier now, you'll notice it's 2 times harder to lift your foot back up. And you just keep working them back down that path, the path in their mind that this is heavy and that I can't lift it up. And you can keep reinforcing that. Because what that does is it gets their subconscious mind to create that into their reality, and their foot actually will be stuck. Now, once their foot is stuck to the ground, this is super powerful. Once their foot is stuck to the ground, they realize something's going on. Their foot is stuck. They know they actually can lift it. They have the power to lift it, but for some reason when they try to, they can't. They consciously know they should be able to lift it, but subconsciously, they believe their foot is actually stuck. And because they believe it's stuck, it becomes stuck to them. At that point, they've realized the power of hypnosis. And once they realize the power of hypnosis, you can now begin to use it to a fuller extent. So it's very easy from this point. You do a lot of build-up for that first initial hypnotic suggestion of their foot being stuck. It's a long build-up process. But once you get there, that's it. You can switch it around. So I would start with their foot, and I would transfer the stickiness in their feet to their hands. So as their foot's stuck, I would say, okay, so you can't lift your foot, but you can lift your arms. And I would move my arms to the side, right? So you can't lift your foot. They're looking at their foot, but you can move your arms, correct? And I would move my arms. And what's happening here is I'm checking if they're mirroring me, if they're pacing, or if they're following what I'm doing, right? Pacing and leading. So I would move my arms. And a lot of times, they will just move their arms. They will say, either nod their head, they say, yeah, I can, and they'll move their arms. Now, you didn't tell them to move your arms, but you were moving your arms, and so they moved your arms. That's a subconscious suggestion you just gave them. If they move their arms back, you can do the most powerful effects. So I would recommend this one next. Your foot's completely stuck, but you can move your arms. Now, put your hands out in front of you, clap your hands together. Now, your hands, this is really cool. Once your hands are completely stuck, you'll find you can lift your feet. That's it. Once your hands are completely stuck, you'll find you can lift your feet. Because then they'll realize, okay, they'll pull apart their hands, I can pull my hands apart, my foot's still stuck, because their foot was stuck, and their foot's still going to be stuck until their hands are stuck. So what they'll do is they'll actually transfer it in their own mind. They will lift their foot, pick their foot off the ground, and now all of a sudden their hands are actually stuck together, because that's the belief that their subconscious believed, what they experienced. So their hands will be stuck. From there, you can say, okay, so your hands are completely stuck together. You'll notice the more you try and pull them apart, the harder it becomes to pull them apart. But I can, in fact, easily pull them apart. And what you'll do is you just grab them by the wrist gently, pull their hands apart easily, and put their hands back together. And once it goes back together, it gets 2 times more stuck. You're just reinforcing it, okay? And then we're gonna take it from a physical suggestion into what we're talking about in the next video, which are like association suggestions, creating new mental associations for the person, such as creating, or amnesia associations, erasing things like that. Sort of jumbled up my words right there. But you guys understand, and you will understand more in detail in the next video. It's super detailed. But as for now, we're gonna transition from these physical effects into the more mental association effects. And the way we do that, after their hands are stuck together like this, you'll pull their hands apart again, because it's easy and you told them it's easy, and you'll put one of their hands right on their head, and you have them close their eyes. Now you say their hand is stuck to their head, the glue or whatever was holding their hands together is now sticking their hand to their head, and then confirm it, try to have them lift their arm up, realize they can't, their hand's completely stuck. And then you want to tell them to imagine, it could be a name, a number, an idea, a belief, something in the middle of their mind. And you ask them, after you locate that in the middle of your mind, you ask them to imagine it traveling up to the top of your head, right underneath your hand. And I want you to imagine that the glue that's on your hand, as that name or that number, let's imagine it's a name, as your name travels up, you'll notice it leaves your mind and enters the glue on your hand. Once your name is no longer in your mind, it is now only on the glue in your hand, say yes. And you'll get them to say yes. And what you do is you have them open your eyes, you take away their hand, and as you take it away, you say, and now I'm gonna take away your hand, with that the glue, and with that your name. And now as you look at the name on your hand, and you point to it, you make it real for them. The name is on their hand. As you look at the name on your hand, you can read it. What does it say? And they will, in their mind, read their name on their hand. And then you say, but if I were to put your name completely out of sight, close their hand, out of mind, you'll no longer remember. This hand motion, I don't think it does anything. But because you're doing it, and from a visual perception, it seems hypnotic, so it does something, because they create it doing something. It makes it more powerful. So you say, you no longer remember your name. And they won't. And you bring your hand back up, because they're trying to find it, right? So they can find it. They can grab conscious control, especially if it's sort of freaking them out a little bit, after a few seconds. So after like 1 or 2 seconds of clear struggle about their name, you'll put their hand back up and say, but you can read it back on your hand. Then they'll read it again. And you can just wipe their hand, say the name's completely gone, or you can write a new name on their hand. You can do a ton of different things. Once your name is gone, you can really use your creativity and do anything. But that is a little bit of what we're talking about in the next video. So make sure to stay tuned, check in on that. It'll be up in a couple days. And then in about 2 weeks, this video and the next video will be revamped with live examples. But I just want to get this out to you as soon as possible. So thank you for hopping in. Thank you for joining in this video. And I will see you next time, my friends.